Well, here again, that's one of the purposes of group. If you know the sources out there, if we can pull in this together, we need to do that.
Restaurant associations, maybe. School, well, no, that's circular.
And Clint, one thing is when we talked the first time, he was really excited about coming here because he says most of the times when he goes somewhere, he's having to fight and make the argument for people to understand where he's coming from. And he was really thrilled to hear the conversations, I think even more so today, that people get it here. And he doesn't have to spend his time and energy of trying to make people understand what he's trying to do, that, you know, we can go forward and make it happen.
I don't know how you make it happen, but I think like what I've talked about is a local equity type of stock market mechanism where individuals who, instead of putting their money in the bank, can put it in this and get a little bit higher rate of return as this thing grows is a way to go, instead of going and beating the same bushes that we constantly get out here and beat. And this would be something that would make us a flagship type of area that we have pioneered such a marketplace.
Well, I don't know how Jeff fits into this whole picture, but he's dealing with farmers every day, and really some huge operations around here. So, you know, as he goes about his duties and so forth and meets with farmers, there's a possibility of bringing this idea into that and help them bring it to fruition. And I want to make a big apology to Jeff. We thought we'd have time this morning, but he graciously said, give Quint the time since you folks were talking with him. Jeff can come back and tell you about you know, the production and so forth here. So he's graciously agreed to do that. So we appreciate that, Jeff. And
I mean, talking about the financing, they're on the permaculture side of things. If you're familiar with the permaculture, how they tie all the systems in together for farming and life, whatever. There are credit unions set up already for funding that type of stuff, so people can, you know, invest in that credit union. And might have, you know, I got to do a little research on that, but there are kind of the same ideas you're talking about doing locally to support local ventures.
I'm talking about like buying stock certificates.
Right.
I've heard of that a little bit, not locally, but I do know one operation in South Carolina where a young couple got some investors to help them get going and been very successful. It's a traditional livestock enterprise, but you know, something like this, these are, the Quint's talking about are typically a lot higher value crops, which might generate $10,000 to $20,000 more gross income per acre, and on a commercial scale, like he's talking about.
And Jeff, I've seen his websites and so forth, and know some of the produce that he sells on his website, but what in this area could generate that high of return? Is there a crop in this area that could generate?
Strawberries, tomatoes, just about any vegetable crop you can think of. We're woefully deficient in our production as far as feeding ourselves. We've got one large tomato grower here that might grow 50 to 100 acres of tomatoes, which, you know, feed a lot of people. But as far as the other variety of produce that's consumed here locally, vegetables, we don't come close to.
I've seen in my studies that if you utilize greenhouse techniques, that it takes you up as far as that chart. I can't remember what that chart's called, but you know, you see it on the back of the seed packs, and it says we're in region 5 or so.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
No, we're in zone 7.
Okay.
Well,
it takes you up 2 levels, and 2 levels takes you to being able to grow what they grow in Florida through agricultural means. And some of these manufacturing facilities, if you can get enough light source in there, you can use that for production.
One thing, this is kind of a side issue, but that maybe the Blackburn landfill could look into. I was reading a couple months ago the Charlotte Airport actually has a vermicomposting facility now, and they claim that they can take all the paper goods that they generate through their sales there with worms that compose that stuff, and they're spreading it out. They got 6,000 acres and spread it out, and they say if they generate more material than that, they can bag it and sell it retail. It's a $1.2 million facility, but it also includes things like, the smell, I guess it's deionizers or something like that to mitigate the smell and that type of thing. That's something the landfill maybe could tie into. Because, you're going to start getting into soil issues and all that stuff with all the good red clay. The red clay mud might be good for the Mong's rice, but there's some things that don't work well with that. That might be an area where the county could, that's not the central issue, but they could probably tie in on that maybe.
Well, they're actively looking. Barry's done a good job, them and Jack, of assessing, what they have there. And the excess heat is one thing they have. So a greenhouse enterprise is one thing they have actively been very much the discussion about.
At the eco complex.
At the eco complex.
And another thing is a biodigester.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at all Barry's got there, and all I know is they throw about any type of garbage into it, and it produces gas for one thing that they can use. It produces heat that they can use, and everything that comes out of it is rotten that they can almost turn back into a
Soil
product.
amenities, yeah.
Yeah.
So are they looking into the possibility, is there enough excess capacity there to build a pipeline to be able to bring that to the more urbanized areas in the county?
Very well.
Is in the methane gas that's being
Maybe awfully
produced?
expensive.
Well, all the methane and the excess on the methane is being used to produce electricity. So it is being used. One of the things that they're also looking at is a greenhouse facility. Now that greenhouse may be used in a number of different ways. It may not be food production, but it may actually be energy production. We're talking about algae and stuff like that, growing that.
Right.
So it's still taking and making our area sustainable. So there's a lot of plans that's going on out there. You've also got the sunflowers being grown that's being turned into fuel.
Sounds like another topic for somebody to come in and talk about the eco complex and what they're doing.
Yeah.
He did.
One of the problems that you have at the eco complex with food production is the fact of having food production at a landfill. So it's easier to take all the byproducts there and turn them back into energy that can be
Well, that's
sold
what I'm
out.
talking about, building out a pipeline. Then you build out the pipeline away from the energy facility.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
but I mean,
Right away.
Piedmont Natural Gas had to do it, so I don't know about the excess
Yeah, and
capacity.
I don't know what the excess will be in the future. I do know that they keep adding capacity as that mountain grows out there. And it will continue to grow. And if you went out there when they were putting that thing together, you know that the piping is in there. And that they'll go up a couple layers and there'll be more piping in it. So the methane production continues to increase every time we dump a load of garbage out there. So,
Right.
yeah. And it's a good use of it.
Well, how many methane pockets are out there in that area near Valley Hills Mall out there where
Not
that
Valley
garbage
Hills, Catawba Mall.
is? It
Catawba Mall's
I
where
think further down there was too, but
No, behind Big Lots, all that back in there is all, Big Lots, that's all built on landfill.
Hickory Plaza.
Yeah.
well, are there pockets in areas such as that of possible methane?
I don't, there
200 yards from here.
There are pockets in the county, I'm sure, because of things that was done in the past. And of course, we have the old landfill. Unfortunately, we're not able to capture that because
You don't have the piping. You don't
have the piping
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
You got areas where you have to let it release, or you could have a big explosion.
It's expensive to capture anyway. I know they looked at it for years.
It is.
Like the hog lagoons down east is capturing the scapegoat, just put a floating cover on it,
Mhm.
and capture it under it, and it's, they can get a bid from Duke or whoever to buy the electricity to generate, but it's a lot of cost share and reality to make it go.
I did just talk with a company, and they're doing solar panels and solar farms. And in fact, it was a company that's done the solar farm. If you've been past Biltmore up there, but basically they're saying that the law says that if you set up production like that, the power companies do have to buy it back.
That's the retail rate.
Yeah, so it is a good investment if you've got the right mixture to produce that energy, whether it be methane or whether it be solar or whatever. Well, folks, I appreciate your time today, and I hope you found Quint to be interesting. And whenever he was talking before, it just sounded to me like we have so much potential in this area for this. And, you know, you said about being scared. I'm scared too. You know, whenever I look at my food supply and know that it may have come from not just hundreds of miles away, but it may have come from another country. And what happens if it doesn't come?
Well, start firing shots at the Strait of Hormuz, and you're going to see gasoline prices $8 a gallon
Not
immediately.
reflecting food prices. We're going to see food inflation. That could be profound, and that's the whole thing. If we don't have to endure that, if we can be self-sustainable, then why in the world not do that?
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time, folks.
Jay, you forget the Department of Labor invented.
Yeah, I tell you, see that vermicomposting back in the
Yeah, well,
17th century France,
And they can live with it. Or die with it.
They used to have a closed system. The farmers that were just outside of France used to grow their stuff year-round, and they would cover it, and they would take it into France, into Paris, to sell it. As they were coming out, they would scoop up all the straw and all the bullshit that it was moved into the roads and the streets of France and take it back and use that. You know, of course, you got it in a set and kind of sterilized, but they would use it back. You know, they were able to grow carrots 2 inches apart because the fertilization was so strong. They could grow it a lot denser rows of crops, and that same thing. It's a closed system. And if we did vermicomposting, we could come back to something like that. I mean, we're throwing food into the landfill, producing methane.
Yeah.
All right, if you get the worms, to begin with, it's a quicker turnaround. The worms will eat that stuff up and get it back out into your soil. It would get rid of all this stuff out of the landfill, and it provides those nutrients you need, because a lot of the dirt around here should be dirt. You know, I mean, you need to amend it heavily.
Clay, yeah.
And you know that, and there'd be plenty of people that could do these lots and use vermicomposting material.
Yeah.
I mean, there you are. There's your closed loop. Anyway, something
There was some